Hey guys, this is Jennifer, and this is the Jennifer Allwood Show, the podcast where you learn how to create a beautiful home and build a creative business. Grab a cup of coffee, find a cozy spot in the house, and let's chat. I'm excited you're here. Well, hey there, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast this week. I'm super excited to talk to you again, as I am every single week. So thank you for those of you who just continue to listen week in and week out. And so many of you have been like screenshotting the episodes and sharing them on your Instagram stories. And it's like Christmas when you do that. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. It just means a ton to me that you're sharing, the effort that I put into this podcast every week. So thank you for that. So this week we are going to talk about how you may be holding the key. That's the title of this podcast. And what I'm talking about is a story that I told coming home from Toronto last week. I am in a mastermind that meets 3 times a year, the Impact Mastermind. We meet twice of those times every year in Toronto. This is what I tell my kids every time. They're like, what are you doing this week in Toronto? I'm like, I'm going to get smarter. So I went to get smarter in Toronto this week. And as I was leaving the airport from Toronto yesterday, I just really felt impressed to share a very personal story of mine on a Facebook Live. And you guys, within a couple hours, that thing has been shared like 200 times. I bet I got at least 20 DMs and private messages within just a few minutes of ending that broadcast. And it resonated so strongly with so many women that I was like, whoa, I perhaps need to tell this on a podcast because as you know, hashtag Facebook analytics. So not everybody in my feed gets to see it. And so I want to tell the story here that will encourage so many of you women listeners who may be holding the key for your family's future. So first, though, I want to tell you that my Inner Circle is reopening on Monday, September the 24th, my friends. Listen, we have not had a public opening of Inner Circle since January. And this is the group where I teach business owners every single month how to build their social media and build their email list so they have more people that they can sell stuff to. Because if you have the greatest product, service, or whatever in the world, but don't have anybody to sell it to, like you still have a hobby, you're making $0. And so in my Creators Inner Circle every month, I am teaching real applicable tactics for growing your social media. I'm keeping you in the know. I do also bring in guests who sometimes are smarter than I in certain areas. And we have live calls every month. And my Inner Circle will open back up on September the 24th. I would love to see you in there. You can go to creatorsinnercircle.com. And so we'll be opening on Monday. And I know I got a lot of DMs about that in the last 24 hours as well. And people want details. And the details are this: you don't have to be a creative to be in the group. I do talk a lot to creatives, but creative or creator expands across all kinds of like different industries and different niches. You don't have to be anywhere at any certain time for my trainings, and it is $47 a month. And this is what I tell different people who ask me about the cost. Don't get tripped up on $47 a month. You can get out of the group at any time. But if a $47 decision trips you up and you don't understand that that's an investment into your business, it will certainly be so hard for you to eventually make $4,700 decisions and even past that $47,000. So those are the bare bone details right there. I'd like to see you, creatorsinnercircle.com. So let me start this podcast by telling you a story that is really dear to me. I have told my Inner Circle this story, but I've never told it publicly until last night in the airport. So I'm leaving Toronto last night. I'm walking through the airport and I'm minding my own business, and was thinking to myself how strange it is that now I travel for business. I've traveled 2 weeks in a row, which I honestly don't like to do. I like to be home with my family. I think my first ministry and my first job is at home. And so being gone for, 2 days one week and 3 days the next, it's not my favorite. It's not what I want to do. I like to be home with my people. And so, but I was thinking, it was a great trip. And I was thinking that how there was a time when I never traveled for business, and I never traveled at all because I was bottom wiping and preschool stage. I mean, my kids were, at one time we had 3 under the age of 6. Jason and I have had 2 miscarriages. So we were pregnant 5 times in 6 years. And so, there was just that period of life is kind of a blur right now. And some of you mamas that are knee deep in that period of life, just know that there will be a time when you sleep again. I promise you. Now, during that time, you may have hot flashes, but there will be a time you sleep again. And so there was a period of time when I just did not travel for business at all. And now we're in a different stage of life. The kids are older. Jason, as you know, has come home from corporate America to work with me on the business and to help with the children and just the running of the home on a day-to-day basis. So we just have different options than we did years ago. And so then that reminded me of a really painful time in our life when we did not even have Ava yet. So we had the boys, and Jason had been laid off from his corporate America job like right before the holidays. In being laid off, he didn't get like their bonus for the end of the year in the fourth quarter, and it was right before Christmas. And when you have little ones, I think the time they were 4 and 2, before Christmas, there's never a great time to lose a job, but what kind of a crap time is that, right? So I can just remember just feeling so like vulnerable and stressed. And I did have my painting company, which did very well for all practical purposes, but I managed the company and I didn't go out to paint. And so I could have made a ton more money if I had been the one physically outside of the home every day, but we had decided early on that I would stay home with our kiddos to keep them out of childcare. And that, I would either take them with me to job sites, or once they were old enough to go to a mom's day out or a preschool, then I would work on those days. So we did have my painting income to fall back on, but things were tight. My friends, things were really tight, and we were putting things on a credit card, and Jason had decided to try to make a shift in careers and do real estate, and had gone through real estate school. But as you know, real estate did a deep dive back around 2008. And so the real estate market was tanking about the same time, that he had just started that career. And so it was super stressful. Can any of you guys relate to just like that? Just a time in your life when things have been tight. And you've just felt like kind of in the vice grip of life. You know what I mean? And everything just feels magnified because you have no breathing room. And I can remember distinctly the kids being home for Christmas break and me calling into Dave Ramsey's like hotline. If I ever meet you in real life, you'll have to have me show you this on my phone. I still have Dave Ramsey's hotline number saved in my telephone. Dave is still on the top 3 people I would most like to have lunch with, because this conversation was a game changer for me. I just had called into the Dave Ramsey show and I was, upset about our financial situation. And we had done a good job of saving and also saving for retirement with our 401ks. And so I got Dave on the phone. I asked him a question about retirement and I cried my way through it. And Dave was amazing. And he's like, you guys are going to be okay. And, he talked to me just in a real fatherly way that I will never forget, which is why I want to have lunch with him. And so that helped my mood. But the reality was we were still tight. It was just tight for many, many months. So I can remember there was one day when we were at church, and there were people going forward at church for some prayer. And so I told Jason, let's go have somebody pray for our job situation and, or your job situation and, just our finances in general. So we went up front at church, and there was a gentleman there that is the father-in-law of a friend of mine. And, he's like, you know what, bring your checkbook up. Like, let's just pray over your checkbook. We're just going to ask God to, just increase what's in the account, essentially, because that's the bottom line. Like, so many of us, are just running tight, or we've done a great job saving, but we don't want to blow through that in times of crisis. That was our situation. Or there's just not enough at the end of every month. Like, I can remember, different times in our marriage feeling that way too. So I bring the checkbook to the front of the church. Jason and I go to pray with him, and he starts praying over us in the checkbook. And then he stopped. And I will never forget this, you guys, as long as I live. He stopped and he said, the Lord wants me to ask you, are you willing to go to different states? And I'm like, I like open my eyes. I got my eyes closed. I'm on the prayer mode, feeling the presence of the Lord. And I'm like, huh? Well, we go to different states. And he repeated it. He's like, the Lord wants to know if you'll go to different states. And I'm like, go to different states. Number one, we don't have anybody to travel. Is he asking us to move? Because heck to the no. We've got church family here, and we've got neighbors we love and a house we love, and the kids are getting ready to start school. And I'm thinking, is he asking us to move? Like, what is he saying? So I'm looking at my husband, like we're standing side by side, shoulder to shoulder. And I'm looking at Jason thinking, okay, it must be like he's asking you to travel for a job. So his question was, will we go to different states? So I'm looking at Jason and I'm thinking, babe, answer the question. And Jason's just looking back at me with his eyes like totally blank. And I'm looking at him and I'm like, I'm trying to give him, wives, you know the look I'm talking about. I'm giving him like through my eyeballs. I'm relaying to my husband, answer the question. Like I'm talking to him through my look. I'm like, why is he not answering the question? And Jason literally is just looking at me blank. And the guy says it again, the Lord wants to know if you'll go to different states. And so finally in a panic, I'm like, yes, we'll go to different states, because I'm thinking, what am I going to say? No, I don't even know what the question means, but I'm just going to say yes. So fast forward, friends, a couple of years later. And a couple of years later, I joined my first mastermind 5 years ago for my business and got coaching from somebody one-on-one and in a group setting in the mastermind in my business. And I started having to travel a little bit. I started with traveling 4 times a year for a mastermind. And fast forward just even a couple years later, then I got invited to do a couple of speaking events, that are making me have to do a tiny bit of traveling. And I'm going to some business conferences and stuff. Suddenly, over the course of the last couple of years, I've had the aha moment. And this is what I want to share with you. And this is what this entire podcast is about. I'm now the one going to different states. I'm the one who's doing the traveling. The whole reason that Jason did not answer the question when God was saying, will you go to different states, is because the question wasn't for him. And the bigger aha is this. In that conversation, in that time of prayer, in that time of, Lord, will you help us because we're feeling desperate? Lord, will you make a way where there seems to be? Lord, will you increase our finances? Lord, will you get us out of what feels like a really tight financial predicament? Will you get him another job? Will you do something, God? In that time, I was looking to my husband, but God was looking at me. And I need some of you ladies to really grasp that. And it's going to make me cry all over again on this podcast, just like I did on Facebook last night. I was looking at my husband to get us out of a crunch. And God was saying, girlfriend, it's you. I've given you the thing. I've given you the tip. I've given you the tools. I've given you what is necessary to get your family out of this. And I'm telling you guys, I did not know it at the time, and I didn't get it for a couple years. But here is what I absolutely know to be true. There is like this entire little movement happening right now of women who are really taking their place in the marketplace, and women who are the ones even leading the business and bringing the husbands home sometimes to work alongside of them. Let me give you an example. Many of you know my friend Nicole Walters. She was in this episode on my podcast. She's in episode number 9, if you want to go back and listen to that. Nicole's husband is an attorney, and Nicole's husband has been able to, come home from that job to work with her and to help in when you own a business, there's just a lot that needs done. Thinking of my friend Rachel Hollis. Many of you know Rachel. Rachel was a guest on my podcast on episode number 39. Dave Hollis, her husband, they just retired him from Disney so that he could work full-time on the Hollis Company. Thinking of my friend Christina Etheridge. Christina, if you do real estate, she owns Leads and Leverage. Her husband works in the business with her. Thinking of my friend Jamie Swanson, who owns Modern Tog. If you're a photographer, you know who Jamie Swanson is. Her husband works full-time with her. Thinking of my online friend, Jamie Nato. You know how sometimes you have online friends? Jamie is somebody that I just really love on Instagram and was able to bring her husband home from corporate America last year. And so I'm giving you these examples of some women because these are like women that God's handed the keys to. Here's what I want the takeaway to be for some of you ladies. The Bible talks about how God will give us wisdom to gain wealth. So if you are lacking in wisdom, I want you to ask the Lord for that. But some of you are holding the keys to freedom for your family. Some of you ladies are holding the keys and you're looking to your spouse to get you out of it. And you're looking to him to get a promotion and you're looking to, your parents to be helping you financially. Or if you're single, you're then obviously the sole key holder, but some of you are looking for other people to solve the crunch that you're in, the tight spot that you're in, the situation that you find yourself in. And the Lord has handed you the key, sweetheart. And so what I want you to do is really think hard about what's in your hand. What has he given you? Has he given you a talent of some kind? Can you whip up some earrings? Baby, you better be whipping up some earrings. Are you able to decorate cakes? Honey, he gave you that talent for a reason. For so many of you ladies, he's handed you the key. Now listen, it may be a part-time key. It may be a side hustle key. It may be a full-time key. It may be a full-time plus where you're bringing your spouse home. I don't know what it is. But the important revelation for you to have is that you can't always look to the other person in the relationship to get you out of the tight spot, because some of you already have the answer. And that was the situation with Jason and I. And wow, when I finally figured that out, it was such an eye-opener. And listen, ladies, this is not a women's lib, women rule the world, who rules the world, girls type of talk. That is not even remotely a part of who I am. So this is never out of spite. This is never to undermine our husbands. And this is never at the expense of our kids, because I firmly believe that a woman's first ministry is always in the home. Okay, but the Lord has given so many of you the ideas and the dreams and the skills that could change everything for your family. Everything. And so here's what I want you to do, ladies. I want you to listen to this. There's 3 things I want you to do, okay? Number 1, I want you to survey your skills. What skill do you have? And do not DM me and say, Jennifer, I'm skilled at nothing, because that's a bunch of crap. Crap. I'm going to say that with a capital C and 20 P's. That's a bunch of crap. All of you have skills. God has given every single person on this planet the ability to do something. What is it that your friends and family say is your abilities? What do they text you for advice on? What do they text you for tips on? What do you feel like you're good at? So many of you know what you're good at. But the problem is you can't imagine wrapping your head around charging for that skill. I know my mom is an incredible seamstress. She's an incredible sewer. And she just likes to do it out of the goodness of her heart. And I'm like, Mom, you could be charging for this. Do you know how much I just, saw somebody pay to get a dress altered at the alteration shop? And so there's so many of you that have skills like that. You don't want to charge for it because you feel like either you don't know how to ask, you don't know how much to ask for, and you're afraid that they're going to say no. Am I right? So first, I want you to survey your skills and figure out what you are good at, okay? Number 2, I want you to survey your excuses. What is the reason that you are giving yourself subconsciously? You're probably not even admitting this out loud. You're probably not admitting it to other people. But if you really dig deep, and let me tell you something, if you're going to be a business owner, digging deep is going to be a constant requirement, okay? So if you dig really deep, what is the excuse that you are giving as to why you can't be the one that holds the keys for financial freedom in your house? Are you using your kids as an excuse? I love you, ladies, but so many women will use their excuse of, I'm going to do it after the kids go to school. Well, now I'm going to do it after the kids leave home. Well, now I'm going to do it blah, blah, blah. I firmly believe you can do both. You can do a side hustle and be a good mom. I did it for years, working while my kids were taking a nap, working while my kids, blogging at night after my kids went to bed. Friends, I've been blogging for 12 years. For 12 years. So the kids were 4 and 2 when I started that bad boy. I didn't even have Ava yet. For the longest time, I would be sending a fax while I would be changing a baby's diaper. You guys have heard these stories. Every single one of you stay-at-home moms who have kids there at home, you know that there are pockets of time when they are watching television, when they are napping. There are pockets of time when you just find yourself into a Pinterest rabbit hole. And so I don't want to hear the excuse that you don't have time, because you do. Maybe you're using the excuse that you're too old. Honey, you're not too old. If you can figure out how to work Facebook on your phone, you are not too old. Because essentially, I was telling a lady that she had messaged me and she said, Jennifer, I'm 65. Would I be somebody that would fit in your inner circle? And I'm like, girlfriend, absolutely. First of all, you're going to be 66 anyway. Like whether or not you're doing a business and working it from every angle or not, you're still like the age is not the determining factor. We have several 65 plus year olds in my inner circle. Maybe you're using the excuse that you feel like women should just not work at all. Maybe this is something you've heard at church and you feel guilty about being someone who loves Jesus and working. Here's what I want to tell you. I want you right now, we'll wait till my podcast is done. But I want you to Google the Proverbs 31 woman. She's my favorite woman of the Bible, okay? And listen, I even pulled it up here so that I can read some of this to you, all right? Because the Proverbs 31 woman, who is supposed to be a really good example for all of us ladies, this is some of the things it says about her, okay? If you read Proverbs 31, Google it, friends. It says she selects wool and flax and works with her hands. She is like the merchant ships bringing her food from afar. In other words, she's going out gathering strawberries and nuts and peaches and whatever. I mean, that's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing her shopping. It says she gets up while it's still night and provides food for her family. So she provides food for her family. She's a provider. She considers a field and buys it. Okay. Proverbs 31 woman is a businesswoman. She's got some cash in her back pocket. She's investing. Out of her earnings, she plants a vineyard. So she is savvy about business. She sets about her work vigorously. She works. Her arms are strong for the task. She sees that her trading is profitable and her lamp does not go out at night. Listen, you guys, the Proverbs 31 woman worked. So for those of you ladies who are like, I can't work while the kids are at home. No, that is not the truth. You can. And in fact, your kids need to see you passionate about something other than just them. Because guess what? Someday those kids are going to leave. And mama, what you going to do? What are you going to have left? Just because you had children does not mean that you lost that part of yourself and those passions that God deposited in your heart and belly. So number one is I want you to survey your skills. Number two is I want you to survey your excuses. If you will dig down so deep and you'll really get to the heart of what excuse it is that you're using as to why you can't be the one that makes some money for your family, man, if you will at least get to a place where you will admit that, all new breakthroughs can happen. It is amazing when we'll let God minister to our mind what can happen. And three, I want you to survey your options, okay? So you've got skills. What are your options? How can you figure out how to monetize the skills that you have? Can you take a little class? Can you, do something locally in your community? Can you get the business started and start your Facebook business page? I have a free starter pack, by the way, for anybody who's like, I have a business idea. I just don't know where to start with the business side of it. If you go to jenniferallwood.com/starter pack, you can get my whole free little download. We'll email it to you. You put in your email, we'll send it right to you. Basically, it says, these are the things you need to do to start. Okay. If you've already started and you're like, Jen, I've got a business started. I'm trying. I'm busting my butt here. I just don't feel like it's going anywhere. Get in my inner circle. It starts September 24th. Go to creatorsinnercircle.com. Well, Jennifer, I just can't spend the money. Okay, the whole point of you getting into a group coaching program is to learn the skills that are needed for you to make more money in your business. So yes, it's $47 going out every month, but I'm hoping you're bringing home 3 times that every month. I'm hoping that the skills I'm teaching you in there are actually making you a ton more money. That's how coaching should work. Some of you have never invested in your business once and you don't understand why it's not growing. Friends, right there. You're trying to do this thing solo. The reason I was in Toronto for the last 3 days is because I have invested a huge amount of money to belong to the Impact Mastermind so that I can be surrounded by people who are going to call me up, who are going to call me out. For people like my business coach, Stu McLaren, who is going to lead this group into thinking bigger so that all of us are growing in our businesses. The things yes, I've invested heavily in a mastermind, but the things I'm learning in there, I'm seeing that money come back tenfold. So think of your options, my friends. If you are continuing to look at your spouse to get you out of your current situation, I want you to know that with everything in me, I believe God may be looking at you, babe. And I know that that feels scary and that could feel like pressure. But I want you to think about the pressure that your spouse may be feeling every single day too. He's working full-time. He's working part-time. And he's putting in hours on the weekend. And you've got these skills to go whip up some furniture in the garage and sell them on Facebook Marketplace. You have an incredible skill at making wreaths and selling them on a website or Etsy. You have a skill of turning around people's furniture and doing a little decorating. But honey, if you're scared, we got to get you out of that spot. Now listen, I got a private message yesterday. Let me see if I can pull it up on my phone. And my podcast guy is going to go, Jennifer, I've told you to please have this done before you get on the podcast. And I'm like, I'm sorry. Okay, so let me see if I can pull up this question that I got. The question was basically this. It was something like, Jen, I have this business and I just need to get the courage to get started with it. And here's what I told her. Honey, courage comes through doing. If you're thinking that one day you're going to wake up and the fear is going to be gone and that then you'll start the thing, you are thinking about it backwards. The courage happens after the doing begins. Like the first time I sat down here to do my podcast, and this is episode number, I don't know, let me not even quote it, 80 something, I was shaking in my boots. I felt like I was going to throw up. But can I tell you what my secret sauce has been in the last 5 years of this business? It's just continuing to do things that give me an absolute stomachache when I think about them. It's just continuing to do the thing I'm terrified to do. If you're waiting for that fear to subside before you start your business or before you list your first thing for sale or before you actually tell your family you want to start a little side gig or before you actually take the business class or before you actually do whatever, if you're thinking that one day you will magically wake up and the fear will be gone and that you'll start then, honey, you're thinking about it backwards. That fear will leave after you do the thing. So, girlfriends, if you are the one that's holding the keys to your family's future, I'm just encouraging you to step out in faith. I'm just encouraging you to surround yourself by other people. I'm encouraging you to start somewhere. The thing is, God may be handing you the keys, but babe, you got to get in the car. You got to be the one who puts it in the ignition and drives. He's given you talents and skills and ability that could change the entire direction of your family's future, and you cannot use fear as the excuse as to why you didn't. So there you have it, my friends. That is my very personal story that I wanted to share with you, and I hope that that is a blessing to someone who is sitting in her car listening to this podcast right now. And if you'll do me a favor, if this podcast ministered to you, would you go to iTunes and leave us a review? Even if you only just have time, just to hit the 5 stars. Don't hit the 3 stars or 2 stars or 1 stars. Only hit the 5 stars. We only have 5-star ratings. If you could leave actually words, that would be an absolute blessing. I'm going to read to you guys a podcast review that we got just in the last couple of weeks. So it's from the Farmhouse Native. So Farmhouse Native writes, you and your podcast have helped me so much in growing my business, having the confidence to pivot, she must have listened to that episode, and finding my community. I cannot thank you enough for your straight talk and wisdom. Oh, Farmhouse Native, bless you and your business. I thank you so much for sharing that review. So if this podcast is something that you're like, dang, my friend Susie needs to hear this, or my sister-in-law is thinking about starting something, or, my mother-in-law's in a really tight spot. She's got some really great skills. Will you do me a favor and just share this episode? So usually on the free podcast app on your phone, there's like a little button down at the bottom. Let me see if I can even bring it up. And I'm just apologizing in advance to my podcast editor who's listening to this, and he's going, Jennifer, my Lord have mercy. So just leave this in here. These are all friends here. These are all friends. We're amongst friends. So if you're listening to a podcast, okay, down at the bottom, let me see, I'm literally like doing this. There are 3 little dots, and you can click on those dots and you can do share episode, and you can share an episode to anybody on your contact list. So share this if you think it'll minister to someone in your world. So thank you, friends, for being here. Thank you for just allowing me to share my vulnerability and my stories and just keeping a really safe spot for my heart. And I just want you to know I appreciate you. I appreciate you listening. And until next week, I want you to stay creative. Bye-bye. Hey friend, thank you so much for listening to the podcast again this week. I'm so honored that you're here and that you just listen week in and week out and that you share the Jennifer Allwood Show with your friends and family. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Hey, don't forget that you can subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, or if you're an Android user, go download the Stitcher app. and you can subscribe there so that you know every single week when a new episode releases. Also, if you have any time to leave us a review, these reviews are super important in getting guests for the show and sponsors for the show. And so we'd appreciate it if you have just a second to leave us a review. That would be amazing. Thank you guys again for being here. And until next week, stay creative.